It has improved my life drastically by having the 12 steps in the spiritual program and infuse all areas, not just my alcoholism, but every area of my life is governed by these 12 steps and the spiritual principles behind it. I get through the day. I can tell you that I have peace today, which is amazing. Never experienced that in my life. I'm comfortable in my own skin. I'm happy, which I'm sober and happy, which I never thought the two were possible, especially together, but I am.
Well, hello, friends of Bill W. and other friends. You have landed on Sober Speak. My name is John M. I am an alcoholic, and we are glad you are all here, especially newcomers. Newcomers, that is, both to recovery as a whole and newcomers to this podcast. Sober Speak is a podcast about recovery centered around the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. My job here on Sober Speak is simple. My job is to provide a platform to the amazing stories of recovery all around us. Consider Sober Speak, if you will, your meeting between meetings. Please remember, we do not speak for AA or any 12-step community. We represent only ourselves. We are here to share our experience, strength, and hope with those who wish to come along for the ride. Take what you want and leave the rest at the curb for the trash man to pick up. Greetings from Studio AA, deep in the heart of Texas. That was the voice that you heard again from Judith R. And you are going to hear so much more from her in just a moment, but first things first, this here episode, the one you're about to listen to from Judith, part 2 of Judith, is brought to you by Sherry. Sherry, baby. It's Sherry with 2 R's, by the way. You know, I'm just realizing, looking at her name, there are so many different ways to spell Sherry, aren't there? Nonetheless, Sherry Starlin. Love that name, Starlin. That's a cool name. Audrey, Mary Lynn, and Laura. And so you ask yourself, what exactly did Sherry with 2 R's and Starlin and Audrey and Mary Lynn do? Oh, and Laura do? Well, they went to our humble, I must say humble little website, www.soberspeak.com, that is kept up by the lovely Mrs. M. And what did they do? Oh, yeah, they clicked on the little yellow donation tab and they made a contribution. So thank you so much, Sherry, Starlin, Audrey, Mary Lynn, and Laura. This here episode is coming right out to Ewan's. So I just got out of the yard, believe it or not. I mean, I wasn't buried in the yard or anything like that. I was walking around the yard, and what did I do? Well, I just planted a tree. And you know, I'm not really a handy dandy kind of guy. You know, I can do things if I need to. I can figure it out, but it is not by any means my strength in life. I tell people that I had a mechanical bypass when I was younger. So that hinders me. But nonetheless, I went out there and I planted that tree, and now me and the lovely Mrs. M are going to put some dirt back over the top of it and water it and just say, good luck. You can't see me right now, but I'm doing a little thumbs up, like, good luck, tree. I hope it all works out okay. And there's another thing that I was thinking of while I was actually going through the introduction. My friend Curry came up to me the other day, and he saw me from a distance, and he said, greetings. He listens to the podcast, and I think he was mocking me. Yes, I was being mocked. Don't mock me. I'll get a resentment. And then I'll have to talk to my sponsor, do a 4-step and all that kind of stuff. But nonetheless, You're not here to listen to me carry on. You are here, I know, to listen to not myth, like a lisp there. I'll say I developed a lisp. But anyway, you are here to listen to Judith R. This is the second part of my interview with Judith. In this episode, this part is called Sober and Happy. In this interview, by the way, if you didn't know the first part, you don't have to listen to them in order, but I would definitely go back and listen to the first part. You're going to really, really enjoy it if you get the chance. But in this episode, Judith discusses her complicated relationship with her father, her high profile job of working for the United States Chief Justice, a white hot rage, I'm sorry, against God and her father that she just could not shake. Tequila Tuesday, and what that's all about, what she called a genie coming out of the bottle. I love that phrase. Once she began drinking, her drinking buddy that met her in a bar after being in AA for 2 months, and what that experience was like. The raging debate in her head saying AA versus the liquor store. I know many of you have had that debate in your head. Being 11 and a half months sober and having a pistol in her lap, considering taking her own life. Having a male sponsor in Alcoholics Anonymous and what that has been like. How AA is so much more than not drinking, and how she likes to live her life, as she calls it, in high definition. And that is just the tip of the iceberg. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Miss Judith R. Enjoy Judith, and we will have plenty listener feedback at the end of the episode. Enjoy Judith. Okay, everybody, so we are back again with Miss Judith. Judith, I'm sorry, what's your last initial, Judith?
R.
Judith R. We're back again with Judith R. So Judith, we talked about a lot of stuff last time. I'm gonna kind of cue it up with that. But why don't you go ahead and tell people what your name is, even though I just said it, and tell them what your sobriety date is, please, and then tell people where you live in this great land of ours, please.
Okay, Judith R. I am an alcoholic. My sobriety date is January the 19th, 2009, and I currently live in Bismarck, North Dakota.
January the 19th of 2009. Okay, Bismarck. So I'm gonna kind of talk about what we talked about last time, a little bit of what we talked about. We got kind of into, because of me and all my silly, in-depth questions, we talked about your excommunication in detail. That was very, with a Protestant type church. That was very interesting to me. We talked about your first drink of alcohol. And by the way, just in case you didn't hear the first part, you don't necessarily have to go back and listen to the previous one immediately, but I definitely would go back and listen to it. Anyway, we talked about your first drink of alcohol at 27, how you were raised in Australia and you were half and half. Your job nowadays as a chief judge for the MHA Nation. Your first husband, your second husband, and we talked a little bit about the sex inventory workshops that you do across the nation, right? So with that being said, let's go ahead and pick it up from that point. If I remember right, when we were together last, we were talking about, well, okay, so we talked about your first husband and kind of a false accusation that you got into there with him. And, you have kind of spent a lot of time, trying to clear his name and making sure that everybody knows that he's a really good guy and such. And then we talk about your second husband, who you unfortunately and took the Harley from
Yeah. Well, that's the
A
least.
custom Harley.
Yeah, that's the least of what I did to that poor guy. I don't know. And, he's forgiven me for so much. No human being should have to have dealt with what he dealt with me. But yeah,
Ah,
the Harley's the tip of the iceberg.
yeah, I got it.
Yeah.
So so where do you want to pick it up from there? I mean, do you want to pick it up from that scenario where you moved out and you took his Harley and then you started kind of life from there?
Yeah, that's a good spot because that's getting close to the end of my drinking. I don't know. Well, I continued for years after that, but let's just fast forward to so now I'm alone. I've destroyed two marriages, multiple other meaningful relationships, and my family and everything else. I'm on my own, doing whatever I want to do, which you'd think would make me happy. But I'm not. I am the top of my career. At that point in time, my job is legal counsel for the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. I am on the top of my game. I am often the most important person in the room, not just in my mind, but I actually am. I'm speaking for the Chief Justice, and I have power, and I have prestige, and I have possessions, everything that drives me. But there's never enough. There's never enough. And yet there's this huge gaping hole. And the other thing is I should tell you that because I was excommunicated, I blame it on the excommunication, but really it was all my resentment. I had this white hot rage. I had a, a ton of deep, deep, deep loathing for myself, but I also had a white hot rage or fury against God, anything spiritual, my father, um, all that. So there's no way I'm darkening the doorstep of anything religious or so I don't know. I still don't know that I'm an alcoholic, believe it or not, after all these years. So now I am the last 4 years of my drinking, let's say from 40 to 44. I finally get sober at 44. Um, I'm a daily drinker every single night. During the weekends, of course, I'm drinking all day as soon as I get up. Instead, I have all this money. I have all these toys. I can do and be and go anywhere I want, and I don't do a thing. My instead of my world, like when I when I took my first drink, I describe it as it was like the genie coming out of the bottle. And I thought it was absolutely I didn't think it was. It was absolutely magical. And little did I know I was going to climb into that bottle and live in the circumference of that bottle from 27, 28, however old I was, to 44. And instead of my life getting bigger and magical, like the illusion, it was smaller and smaller and smaller until the point where I had two friends left, drinking and using buddies. I would go to work and I'd go back to my apartment, basically, or I would um, go to one of these friends' place where I can drink. And that's it. That's all I did. I would talk about vacation. I would talk about going on vacation for 2 weeks. I would talk about all the things I could do, and I could. I had the money, I had the resources. I never went anywhere. I would stay in my apartment. I'd start drinking. That's my vacations. So every day I'm drinking and as soon as I get off work till I pass out, and every morning I come to and I swear to myself, not again. I'm not going to do that again. Not again. I'm a blackout drinker. I drive intoxicated. If I'm over at my friends, like one of the friends lived there, I'm driving every night. I should be in prison for the amount of DUIs that I didn't get, never got caught. Um, It was like Groundhog's Day, over and over with the exact same script. I would come to and I would say, I'm never going to do that again. And I meant it, and I would be sick. And about halfway through the day, about 1 or 2, I could get some food down. I could, put in a few good hours of work. And then around 4 o'clock, 3:30, the thought would enter my head, well, Taco Tuesday or Tequila Tuesday. No, it's Taco Tuesday, but it's Tequila Tuesday or it's Hump Day or it's Friday, whatever it may be. I'm like, no, I'm not going to drink today. But without any resistance, that little thought would push all my reasons out. And by 5:15 or whenever I got off, within 15 minutes, I'm drinking, and I'm only going to just have one. I deserve it. I have a high stress work, and I need to just relax, and so I'm just going to have one. And of course, as you know, as soon as I have one, at that point in time, I'm up to 3.5 to 4 of the big bottles of wine per night or a big jug of vodka per night. And I drink until I pass out at about 1 a.m. and then I do it again and again, day after day after day, week after week after week, month after month for the last, I'm going to say 4.5 to 5 years of my drinking. This was the exact same existence with the exact same script. Never change in the script, the whole dialogue, the inner dialogue, exactly the same. And you would think that I'm a pretty intelligent person. I have quite a few degrees behind my name, the letters behind my name and whatnot. And yet I could never connect the dots. Not once did I know that I had a problem, because I went from an atmosphere of zero drinking. No one around me drank, didn't know anyone, to people who drank exactly like me. And only a few of them. Only a few do I hang out with. Two, in fact. And and we don't talk about that. And you definitely don't talk about that in my profession. You don't talk about rehab, detox, treatment, alcoholism, drug abuse. You don't talk about that. You're going to get disbarred. Are you kidding me? So I don't have any clue what is happening with me.
So let me ask a question. Was that causing any sort of difficulties or challenges with your work, or could you suck it up and basically do your work fine and then uh, start it over?
I always felt like I was on thin ice by the last year or so. Yeah, I was making decisions. I wasn't able, but I had never been reprimanded. Um, I hadn't been fired. Um,
So I mean, was
I
it
don't
ever brought
think
up at
anyone
work?
knew. No, no,
Okay, good.
no. Very, very careful. In my profession, your appearances are everything, especially with the high profile job that I had.
Hmm.
With the chief justice, you don't do a thing wrong. And that's why I had to drink at home, or I never drank in public. Um, well, I I would go out, have one or two, and then I knew. It's funny what you intuitively know. I knew I could not stay there and drink like I wanted, and it's not socially acceptable, and I want another. And I didn't put two and two together. It's just mind boggling to me now that I didn't see it. But so I'd have one or two, and I'm pacing because they're drinking so slow. And maybe I can squeeze out a third socially acceptable, but highly doubtful happy hour, and then you go home. Everybody's going home to cook supper. I'm like, where are y'all going? Why? And so then I'd go home and I'd finish, do what I do. So yeah, that was my life. And I wanted to die. I had everything, everything. And that's why I tell some of my sponsees, they're like, well, if I had the job, or if I had the relationship back, or if I had my kids back, if I had this, that, I'm like, I had everything anyone could want. I'm at the height of everything. And I couldn't stay sober. So don't tell me it's because you need a car. It's not about that, or you need a job or whatever. It's not about the external. That's not what's keeping us sober.
I want to ask you real quick about you had mentioned earlier about how you had a white hot rage against both your father and religion. I can kind of see the religion. I don't think you ever really got into the father bit. What was the anger there at him about?
The anger, because he was a fairly well-known, those circles, religious circles, published author, president of a college, things like that.
Mm.
Um, Sought off speaker, spoke around the world, that sort of thing, as a scholar, theologian, that type, very highbrow intellectual. But there was also violence in our home. And so, here's this person that is represents, I kind of meshed him and God together.
Hmm.
And that's the kind of God that uh, I was I was forced to learn Bible verses from the time I first, like, 4 years old. Then by the time I was a teenager, chapters were required. Theology, different we'd have to recite them. So the father figure, the violence in the home, a very judgmental, wrathful God was all swirled and combined, and I had a very huge misconception of God. We talk about having a conception. Well, I had a very huge misconception that was influenced by all of that.
Did you have brothers and sisters? And if so, how did they view it the same way? Did they see it the same way?
My sister sees it the same way. And my brothers don't talk about it. And one brother would not see it the same way. I don't know why. The other two don't talk about it.
Got it. Okay, so let's go forward here. So you have Tequila Tuesday and all that stuff going on, and then at some point here, you make it to Alcoholics Anonymous. Looks like we're right up on that time now. So can you share that?
Yes, one of my, I said I had two drinking and drugging buddies left.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them disappeared. Uh, and where he had disappeared to was into AA. And about 2 months into AA, I was going through, we didn't live in the same place. So I'd always have to travel. And I'd go travel there because I could drink and do other stuff that I wanted. So I was traveling through there, and I had just had a wild, wild weekend. Tired. I was so tired. And I called him up and I said, "Hey, it was a Sunday morning at around 10 a.m. And I called him and I said, "Hey, I'm coming through. Do you want to get together for a drink?" I'm still not putting things together. Most people on a Sunday, 10 a.m. would say, "Do you want to get together for coffee or do you want to get together for breakfast?" I say, "Do you want to get together for a drink?" And he said, "Yes." What I didn't know was when he got my phone call, he was sitting in a AA meeting.
Mm.
His phone vibrated and he looked down and he saw it was me. And he didn't know what I wanted, but he sure knew what I needed because he had thrown himself into 2 short months. He had thrown himself into AA, working the steps, had a sponsor, all this stuff. And so he stepped out of the meeting, took my call, and he said yes. And so he met me in a bar. At 2 months sober, I don't suggest it for people like me because I resisted the whole program for so long, like a year. Um, but he was ready with the guidance of a sponsor, and he had been placed in a safe and neutral position when it came to alcohol, and I was sitting there, and it was 2 for 1 Bloody Marys, and I had 4 drinks because, they're so slow, you have to just order double.
Yeah.
I had 4 Bloody Marys lined up in front of me. That was just for me. He was gonna have to order for himself, and he walked in, and, I couldn't even recognize him. His whole physical in 2 short months, he looked completely different. He looked healthy. He looked, and this joy, his eyes were alive and just beamed with this joy and happiness is the one thing that I had been looking for decades at that point. Um, just and he sat down and he didn't have to tell me, he didn't we drank together. He knew. I I drank with him. I knew how he drank. And he just told me what he had been doing for the last 2 months. And my whole thought was you'd think a normal person would be like, "Oh my gosh, you're sober? I'm sorry. Would you like me to not drink in front of you?" Kind of be courteous. I'm like, "It sucks to be you, dude." you know, whatever. But I could not get the um, visual of him. I could not discard the evidence in front of my eyes. I don't remember what he said that whole time. I don't remember. I know he it was a great 12-step call, but I don't remember what he said. But I couldn't deny the evidence in front of my eyes of that joy and happiness and transformation in 2 months. Could not get over it. And it was so attractive. It just was like I was like a candle to a moth, and I'm the moth. And so that night I kept drinking, obviously, and then I drove home that night. So that was a Sunday night. The next day was Martin Luther King Jr. Day, which means I don't have to go to work, which means I got a lot of drinking time. The bars are going to or the liquor stores are going to close. It was in the evening on a Sunday, and I have to make a decision because I wasn't expecting to be back that early, and I don't have any alcohol in the house. And I need it. I don't know I need it. I'm still not connecting the dots. I'm still not an alcoholic. I don't have an alcohol problem. I have a people problem. I have a life problem, but not an alcohol problem. But he had told me there was a meeting that night at 8 p.m. and a raging debate started. Liquor store, AA meeting, liquor store, AA meeting. And I wasn't going to AA because I was an alcoholic. I was going to AA because that's the place. I don't know anything about AA, but that's the place that hands out this happiness stuff that my friend got. That's all I'm interested in. Maybe these people, maybe I can be happy like that. I'm willing to do anything. And to this day, I cannot tell you how my car ended up at the AA meeting rather than the liquor store. But I went to my first AA meeting intoxicated. No, there you go, that night.
I've seen a few of those in the meetings.
Mhm.
So you got there intoxicated. Anybody say anything, or did they just kind of let you do your thing?
I was well behaved. I believe I was very hostile. I looked a whole lot different than I do now, and I'm hoodie up and just really hostile. And I came in late. Of course, I'm late, and there was like 12 people, men. Obviously, alcoholics are old men that live under a bridge and they're homeless. That's not me. I'm not. Look at me. I'm not an alcoholic, right? And so I'm sitting down. I'm like, oh my god, I could go to the liquor store. So I just sit there and listen, and no one says anything. I'm not disruptive. I don't say a word. I don't introduce myself. They've already started. And then they're circling up for the prayer. Well, I'm not going to participate in that. And so they're circling up. I'm heading for the door. And there was this one guy, I remember his name is Gary, and he physically puts his body between me and he blocks me from the door. And he sticks out his hand and he says, "Hi, my name's Gary. I'm an alcoholic." And I'm like, I took his hand. It's almost instinctive if someone puts their hand out. You don't even think about what you're doing. You shake their hand. Well, so I shook his hand and he didn't let go. And then he sort of guides me over to this table. He goes, uh, "Hey, do you have one of these books?" And he's giving me. I'm like, "No," blah blah blah. And then he gives me a coin, and the coin says 24 hours on it. And I remember thinking, clear as day, I remember thinking, do I need to tell him that I'm not sober right now? So he didn't know. And the interesting thing is, and then I got out of there. I got out of there as quick as I could. I'm like, that is the stupidest thing. I don't know what this is. Not happiness. What? I didn't hear anything about being happy. And I just heard, I don't even know what they were going on about. But that coin bothered me. And I was like, okay, if I can, and this is my crazy alcoholic thinking, if I can stay sober for 24 hours, that proves I don't have a problem. I hadn't been sober daily. There had been something in my system drinking for the last 4.5 to 5 years. I didn't go without it. And so, but I'm like 24 hours. Then it proves there's nothing wrong with me, and I can go on to check that off and keep going. So I decide I don't go to the liquor store, and I start detoxing on my own. I have no idea how dangerous that is. I don't know how sick I'm about to get. And they did give me a big book. They said, read the first 100, or Gary did, read the first 164 pages. And they said, bring it back. He just gave me a big book. And so I started detoxing. I was sick. I saw things. And in between getting sick and whatnot, I read the first 164 pages that first day. And I remember when I was done, I slammed it shut and I threw it again. I threw it across the room, hit the wall. And I said, that's the stupidest thing I've ever read in my life. Had no clue, no identification, nothing. It was gibberish. It was old fashioned. I didn't get it. I thought it was ridiculous. I thought it was juvenile writing. I was pretty sure they needed me to edit it for them to bring it up to a little, intellectual level. Now I think it's the most beautiful piece of literature ever. I just didn't know how to read it. I didn't understand. It's so different now. I mean, they're talking about ballet and jaywalk. What the heck is all that? I don't even know anything. The interesting thing is that then that night, as sick as I was, I went back because I wanted to earn that 24-hour. No one asked me. I was very disappointed. No one said, well, it's like, I thought it was going to be, but no one, they're just welcome back, and that was my start of AA. I hated it every minute. I hated it. And for some reason, I went back every night. I hated the people. I thought you were all idiots. Weird. And I'm not doing the stupid steps because it has the word God in it. And so I'm stuck. And I go to a meeting every single day. I don't miss one. I'm white knuckling it. I'm going insane. The obsession is overwhelming. And 11 and a half, wrapping this up really quick, 11 and a half months of that, not getting a sponsor, not reading the book again, refusing to work the steps. I had sobriety from that first day, but I had zero recovery. And and the insanity of alcoholism without a drop took me to the gates of insanity and death. And I ended up sitting in a parking lot at 11 and a half months sober with a pistol, and I was going to take my life. And that's where I ended up working Judith's program instead of the AA program.
So you're sitting in the parking lot. You're thinking about taking your life. You've kind of hit a bottom within AA.
Yep.
And then what happened from there?
Yeah. Well, y'all are liars because I didn't get happy. I don't know why everybody else was getting better and I was getting worse and worse and worse and worse. It was horrible. So I'm sitting with this pistol in my lap, in my hand, in this parking lot, and this thought comes to me. It seems, and I'm not saying I hear voices. There's a lot of voices, but they're all mine, talking to me in my head. But a thought comes to me, and the thought was, there's really good AA over in that town where my friend lives. And I answered the voice back. I was like, fine. Because now I don't know what was said in that first 11 and a half months, but I didn't hear anything and I didn't hear the solution. I don't know why. I don't know what was happening, but I didn't have a sponsor and there was no women and there was nothing. No one was sponsoring and no one was taking me through the steps. So this voice said that, or this thought, there's thoughts, there's good AA over there. And I answered the voice back or the thought back. I was like, fine. Well, here's what I said. I said, I'm going to go to the reservation and get what I need to get, alcohol and drugs, to do what I need to do because I didn't have the courage to pull that trigger. I'm going to end it. And that thought came in response to my plan. After 11 and a half months sitting in AA, my best thinking is I'm going to go to the reservation, get what I need to get to do what I need to do, and that's take my life. So my best thinking doesn't even get me to AA. My best thinking gets me dead or drunk or whatever. So this thought said, okay, all right, fine. I'll go to that city. But if that doesn't work, then I'm going to go to the reservation, get what I need to get to do what I need to do. And I went there and I walked in. That's where my friend was from. I walked into, thank goodness, a very strong, big book, Fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous. And they saw I was dying of untreated alcoholism. And they went to work. I like to joke and call them the ER of AA. And they appointed a sponsor to me. I didn't get to pick my sponsor. And basically, I just had one appointed to me, and that my sponsor just kicked my butt through the steps and saved my life.
The ER of AA.
Mhm. They saved my life. And my sponsor, there was no way, I don't know. It's kind of weird because I don't live there anymore, so I don't really know. I don't know if there was women that were taking people through the big book or if they just weren't taking me through the big book, even in that the good place, the city with the strong AA. But there was it wasn't happening. And so my sponsor is and still is a man. Thank goodness he's a man of character and integrity that sees me as an alcoholic. I'm the only female he sponsors. We I don't, we're very I have an opinion, and I see a lot of harm around that, and I don't wanna make it seem like, "Oh, it's a good idea." If it was up to me, it wouldn't have worked. I would have manipulated. I would have ended up sleeping with my sponsor if possible to get what I need, and then I'd be dead. I'd be dead because that's all I knew to do, to manipulate people and to get you to like me or to get your whatever. I used my body. That's all I knew from the time I was, molested at boarding school. That's who I was. That's all I thought I was made for. But, thank goodness my sponsor did not put up, and I knew that into it, and we never did anything socially, ever. He would be on the phone with his sponsor when we would meet together once a week to work the steps, and it was a high accountability. They would be praying on the phone when I walked in. He would let his sponsor know when I left. We did not do things socially. We did not hang out. I wasn't one of the boys. I wasn't able to be in their little small groups. It was very much different, but I was willing to do anything at that point to stay alive. It was either take my life or do what I was told to do, and I did what I was told to do.
What drew you to him as a sponsor?
Well, he was I was giving him. He's a mean Harley mechanic. Maybe it was the Harley connection,
Yeah.
but yeah, I don't think he wanted to sponsor me. I think he was told to sponsor me. But, thank God, and it was like the first time I met a man, other than both of my husbands are men of character integrity, but, it was a whole different I manipulated those whole situations, but it was the first man that I met that knew everything about me and loved me as, God's kid. Not a female, not a I'm just an alcoholic. I'm one of God's kids, and it saved my life. It absolutely, and he didn't put up with it. None of my tricks worked, none of my manipulation worked, none of my pouting worked, nothing worked with him. Nothing. He still doesn't. He's just not buying it. Well, he's way older than me, and he's just this tough, Harley guy, and he's just not buying it, and he's not manipulated, and
Yeah, so there does seem to be some sort of Harley string throughout your life here. So both good and bad, right? Uh, I know you were married a couple times within, when you were drinking. Have you been married in sobriety?
well, nice of you to ask. I made amends to husband number 2 when I was about, because first year doesn't count. I wasn't working the steps, so I think it was somewhere in the second year working with that sponsor, moving into the third year probably. I don't know. Somewhere in my second year, I made amends, and it was the most amazing thing. My husband number 2 forgave me, and after a couple, and we're living in different states and everything, so it's not like we got to see each other or anything, and there wasn't, yeah. So I made amends, and that's that. And well, I do want to say, give him credit. He looked at me. He was quiet. Um, And he said, because he knows I wasn't behaving myself, but he doesn't know. No. And he looked at me and he says, I don't know how not to need to know, like the details. And my sponsor and I had been practicing this. And what came out, I think, was just from God or something. And I said, I can't help you with your need to know, because I can't tell other people's stories. It's just not something that we felt that I was free to do and involve other people and talk about other people. And he sat there really quiet for a while. And I sat quiet, amazingly. I shut up. And then he looked at me and he said, I choose to forgive you. It was a conscious choice. I watched it on his face. I choose to forgive you. Talk about he's not an alcoholic. He's a normie. But talk about a depth of spiritual understanding. I choose to forgive you. And you know what? Not once has he ever. Oh, and then so years later, a few years down the road, we reconciled and now we are together. So I say I've been married 2.5 times because it's the same guy.
So are
And
you
yeah,
so you live together?
I'm back to North Dakota
Yeah.
because that's where he lives. So I moved up here, and now we're together and we're married.
So okay, well, very cool. So how long have you been married this time?
Well, we can't, I, I think if we count from the beginning, um, because technically yeah, it is. I think this year it will be 30 years if we count from the beginning.
Oh, well, great. Okay.
But this time when we're together, um, what year is it now? 2025. Man, I must say we've been together 7 years.
Okay.
I don't know. 7
Yeah.
good years. We'll just say there's been 7 good years.
I understand. So when you said I'm still making amends for that one, when you talked about it Harley, that means like, okay, now it makes even a little bit more sense. You're still making amends for that one. Uh,
Yeah, so
did he ever?
I sold my Harley and bought him a Indian motorcycle.
Okay, so he actually has a new bike there. Okay, cool.
I just sell my gorgeous bike.
All right, Judith. So let's kind of wind this down. Okay, you have a lot of people listening to you out there. Um, eh, I'm thinking of women in particular, but there's going to be both women and men who are listening to you, and they've either considered AA or they're sober curious. There's a lot of people who listen to this who aren't in AA, and they're kind of. What would your message be? What would your experience, strength, and hope be that you want to kind of wrap this up with regarding your experience with the 12 steps and Alcoholics Anonymous and life? What comes to mind for you?
Wow. I think that from experience, my experience, this isn't theory. My experience is that this is the most spiritual, the most powerful spiritual movement, if you want to call it a movement, or experience that you can have. I have always been around spirituality and religion. I have been exposed to so much in that area. I'd have to say that this by far is the most amazing and powerful program, spiritual program, and that it's so much more than just not drinking, which is what I thought it was about. I thought it was about a bunch of miserable people getting together and just let's not drink to get, together. It's so much more than that. It has transformed my life. Um, it has improved my life drastically by having the 12 steps in the spiritual program and infuse all areas, not just my alcoholism, but every area of my life is governed by these 12 steps and the spiritual principles behind it. I get through the day. I can tell you that I have peace today, which is amazing. Never experienced that in my life. I'm comfortable in my own skin. Shocker, I'm happy, which I'm sober and happy, which I never thought the two were possible, especially together. But I am. I have gotten the freedom and I've had, I thought I was going to be bored that, okay, we're just going to not drink and that's my life now. We're just not drinking. But I can tell you, I've had more adventures than ever before. The bucket list things, I get to dream big. I get to live big. I get to live in high definition, as I like to say. I make connections with people, which have always been difficult for me to have really meaningful connections with people. I don't loathe myself. I have gotten so much healing from, if you want to call it religious trauma or whatever. I've gained so much healing with my family dynamics, my family, just everything. It's so much bigger than you think that it's hard to put into words and you can't really describe it. You just have to experience it.
I understand Judith so well, so well. This has been really cool. I want to thank once again Carl for introducing us. Carl M. He's such a great guy, and he told me you'd be fantastic. And Carl has never let me down. So I thank you so much. So I'm going to wrap it up here with page 164 from the Big Book. It says, abandon yourself to God as you understand God. Admit your faults to Him and to your fellows. Clear away the wreckage of your past. And we've been talking about that for 2 different episodes now. Give freely of what you find and join us. We shall be with you in the fellowship of the Spirit, and you will surely meet some of us, like me and Judith R, as you trudge the road of happy destiny. May God bless you and keep you until then. Once again, Judith, thank you so much for coming on today. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Once again, thank you so much, Judith, for joining me for a couple of different episodes. It was a delight spending time with you. I know the listeners got a lot out of that. And speaking of, if you're a listener out there, I would love for you at this point to go ahead and pause your device and click that little share button and send it over to another friend or family member. It may be just what they need today. We don't want you sharing your toothbrush, but we would love for you to share that episode. All right, now on to a little bit of listener feedback. Linda writes in. She says, hi, John M. I've been listening to you for 2 years now. I've been in the AA community since January of 2021. I did relapse, but my sobriety date now is April 9th of 2022. I'm grateful and excited to join the Sober Speak community. Thank you for your service. And what she's talking about there is joining the Facebook community. If you are not in ye old Facebook what Facebook community? If you're not in there, look us up. Just look us up, like in the phone book, right? Look us up in the Facebook application. It is Sober Speak Secret Group, and ask for admission, and we will get you on in the group. Linda, I am so glad that you have joined us. And by the way, just in case you're still listening in, it helps us, is my understanding. I should do this more. If you can like rate us on Spotify or Apple or whatever and leave some comments, even if the comments are bad, I still listen. I still like to hear them. They're usually there's never been one person complain about the guests. Always complaining about me, but I could take it. I'm spiritually grounded, kind of, sort of. But anyway, thanks for writing in, Linda. All right, this one, Jason writes in. Yes, Jason writes in. He says, "Hi, John. My name is Jason K. I am an alcoholic. My sobriety date is October 5th of 2025. I'm writing you for a couple of different reasons. First, I want to thank you. The first 7 years of my sobriety was inside the gated community." Gated community. I've not heard that phrase before. At least I don't remember it. Of the Texas Department of the Criminal Justice System. He says, "I worked the steps with the big book and a chaplain listening to my fifth step. For the most part, we had volunteers coming in, bringing a meeting to us, which was a huge help. God bless all of you who bring those meetings out to the prisons. That's absolutely fantastic." Anyway, he says, "I had been in and out of the rooms and would make a beginning, but once I had the wife, kids, job, and the promotion, I decided I could control and enjoy my drinking again, landed me once more in the gated community." I remembered the tablets that rolled out at my unit, and your podcast was one of the first downloads I had. I can't tell you how much I learned from the different people you have on your show. When I was released on Groundhog Day in 2024, I went to a halfway house in Dallas. I got plugged in immediately and started attending the principals group in North Dallas and Simply AA in Irving. I found a sponsor. I was active in AA and went back to the steps with him. I go to several conferences throughout the year, and I have been able to find or create the fellowship I crave. When locked up, I was able to take several men through the first 164 pages, and I'm still in contact with most of them, and I hear they are doing the same. I feel like I'm rambling now, but I just wanted you to know how powerful it is what you are doing. I have been taking meetings back into the prisons 90 days after release due to my actions while I was inside. I got special approval to come back in earlier than the rule of 12 months. Good. I'm in Abilene, Texas right now, and every Monday I sit next to a guy named Rusty. We know Rusty, yes, who inspires me and also says he listens to your podcast religiously. Hi, Rusty, if you're out there listening. He is not the first or only person that I have run into at meetings on the inside who gain hope, purpose, and belief in a new way of life from your podcast. He gave me permission to give you a shout out. He is the reason I remembered to write you, and I thank you for investing in my recovery without ever having met me. Just know that your podcast is helping people recover from this devastating disease. Much love and respect, Jason K. With Jason K, much love and respect back out to you, my friend. You can't see me right now, but I'm doing a little namaste or prayer hands in front of me. I got my eyes closed and I'm thinking about you, my friend. Thank you so much for writing in. And he said, reach out at any time. And I said, I hope if you get down to the Frisco area, please let me know. I'd love to meet you. You could meet a lot of the people that you've heard on the podcast at that meeting if you're on down here. And Jason, I do hope we get to meet eyeball to eyeball here just real soon. All right, everybody, that right there is another episode in the books. Keep coming back. It works if you work it. I take this 1 week at a time. I hope to be back next week, and may God bless you and keep you until then. Thanks so much for listening in. Adios.